thought I saw episode 205 or 209.
Oh.
Season 2.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, we have maybe like 750 blog posts. Or 800?
900 blog posts.
900?
Like 750
Okay.
recipes.
Yeah.
So let's just get into it, I guess. We already poured the champagne. We're talking about podcasts, blog posts, recipes. Let's reel it all back. A couple cooks, right? Like, what is that all about?
Yeah, so A Couple Cooks is our business that Alex and I run together. It started out totally as a hobby. So we got married 11 years ago, and we met at IU and moved to Indy, and then decided we wanted to learn how to cook. But at the time, we knew nothing about food. We were eating Hot Pockets and Taco Bell. And we wanted to have people to our house for dinner. And so we realized we couldn't serve them Hot Pockets. We needed to serve them something a little better than Hot Pockets. So we decided we wanted to learn how to cook. And we got a hold of a cookbook, and it happened to be by Julia Child. And I had never heard of her. Back then, there was the movie Julie and Julia hadn't come out. I didn't know anything about
Great
her.
movie.
I thought she was just some random old lady, and I didn't know anything about her story. But I started reading her cookbook, and her personality just really jumped out of the book. And she said, it doesn't matter. If you've never learned how to cook, you can learn, and I will show you how to do it. And you can have confidence in the kitchen. And I really gravitated towards her personality, and we started making some recipes, and they started working, and some of them failed, but ones of them worked. And we started asking people over for dinner, and it just gradually grew into a passion where we were both in the kitchen together making food for people that we loved. And around that time, it was around 2010, everyone was starting blogs. And so we said, okay, let's start a food blog because we love to cook. So let's start a blog. And so we tried to think of what the name would be. And I said, what about A Couple Cooks? It's like a little pun. And
I hated it.
And Alex said, that's a terrible name.
Too cutesy.
But then I said, no, come on, let's think about it. And I gradually convinced him, and we started A Couple Cooks, and it has grown into both of our careers today.
Great summary.
Thank you.
All right. So you guys have been listening to the Drink Culture podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, just kidding. So like even going back further than that, right? Where did you guys grow up? Like, what were some of the experiences that you think eventually kind of led you down that path? I know you were eating Hot Pockets and Taco Bell, maybe sometimes in the same night. At least that would have been my trajectory in college.
Oh, yeah.
But what kind of got you
I
there?
ate Lean Pockets because I wanted to be healthy.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It said lean on it. So
Oh,
I said,
so man.
yeah,
Oh,
that's
we
a health
get-
food, right?
we-
Jared,
let's-
jot that down because we can
let's-
get back into that.
Let's
one.
go for that.
Do you want to-
So I grew up in Decatur, Indiana, outside of Fort Wayne, and grew up out in the country. I don't know if there was a lot about growing up that inspired a food career, but it was a very creative place. My mom really encouraged me artistically, and we lived out in the country, and I just had room to roam. So building and creating was always a part of my life. And then photography was a big passion of mine in high school and college. And once we found food, it kind of reinvigorated my passion for photography, and I had something to shoot. And so cooking also meant something that I could take pictures of.
For me, I grew up liking to eat, but never loving to cook. I thought that was, in home ec in middle school, I thought that was the dumbest class. Like, why do we have to cook spaghetti? And I had no interest in the kitchen. I grew up as a classical musician, and so I was always playing the piano and doing classical music competitions and all sorts of things. And so I just felt like I don't have time for cooking. Like, that's not a creative thing. And so it wasn't until after I graduated from college, I got a degree in music and in writing. So I went to journalism school at IU. And I decided to end my music career for various reasons, and I went into writing. And it was around that time I had a job just in business, and I started going to some restaurants around town here in Indy, and I went to our bistro, which was a really great farm-to-table restaurant at the time, and I remember sitting down and eating this food and saying, this is art, like this is creativity. And that was one of the first times I realized that food could be creative too. And since I had quit my classical music career, food started to become my creative outlet in a way that classical music felt very structured and oppressive to me. Food felt very free, and I could be self-taught, and I could make as many mistakes as I wanted. And it was a creative outlet where I could just explore things and also create recipes that touched people and that people could make in their own homes. And I could relate to people in a way where music felt very lonely and isolating. So for me, it was kind of this turning point of, taking my creative energy and using it to something that fulfilled my passions.
What were you doing career-wise with classical music, like that you left behind? Like, were you teaching? Were you touring? Like, what in kind of what capacity were you involved with classical music?
Yeah, I went to school at IU Music School and got a degree in music performance. I was actually a French horn player. So I don't talk about this a lot. So you guys are getting like the, the inside scoop.
We need a buzzer, special scoop buzzer.
Yes. And so then I decided to end my career when I graduated. So I was actually, I spent my music career mainly in high school and in college playing in a symphony orchestra. That's what I thought I wanted to do. And I loved it for a very long time. But for other reasons, just decided it wasn't the right fit for me. I'm not sure how much of that you want to get into.
Well, I mean, and as a creative, I think that you hit it on the head. You said it was so structured, right? And I only know this from the outside looking in. It's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. Like, you don't really have the room to play around and improvise with classical music. It's like, you can't make mistakes, right? Yeah. You have to play it the way that it's played.
Yeah, you're almost a robot in an orchestra. Like, you're paid to reproduce the same thing every night. And it's hard. And also, classical music doesn't relate to a lot of people these days. So it did feel very isolating for me.
Do you feel like AI, artificial intelligence, might take over orchestras?
Potentially. Who knows?
I'm just kidding. I just, the thought process, never really thought about, being robotic and doing the same thing every single day. Like, wow, that is kind of crazy to think about that.
Right.
So I think what's really important about kind of what we do is, telling stories. And I think you guys have a very interesting story in the sense of working together. Can you talk a little bit more about how you met at IU? And is there like this is my favorite part, is like learning about like the love story. And is there a moment where like it happened?
You're such a softie, Jared.
I am, softie at heart.
Now that you're going to be a dad.
Hey.
For those that didn't know that, I don't know if that's a surprise or not, but you've got
surprise.
You've gotten soft.
Well, the moment that we met each other, first day of freshman year, was the moment we knew. I'm trying to be dramatic. Did it work?
It did.
No, well, it's kind of true.
We met the first day of freshman year. We lived on the same floor at IU in Forest Dormitory. Within 3 days, she went to the Chinese buffet with me and my family. So
it was like you guys met very first day, and you're like, "Hey, we're getting married. Let's do this."
Well,
almost.
I actually dated another girl there for about a year.
Ooh.
So he was my friend's boyfriend.
Oh,
then
is that a hot topic? Like, are we?
We also don't really talk about that ever. So you're giving
the world is hearing it.
This is what you get on 100th episode, guys.
Is that group? Are you guys all still friends in that group, or
Facebook friends?
Okay,
yeah.
Fair.
No hard feelings.
Yeah.
No hard feelings.
So then our sophomore year of college, I don't know if there's any magical moment, but Sonja was a little embarrassed she wasn't sure she wanted to date me, and since we had all the same friend group, she kind of made us go on secret dates.
Ooh.
So we drove from Bloomington to Indianapolis to the Cheesecake Factory for our first date.
You had a lot to talk about then. That's a good little car ride.
But somehow it worked. But it feels like we grew up together. I mean, having met at 18, we've known each other over half our lives now. So it's pretty.
Don't tell people how old we are. We're not divulging that in this episode.
But it's pretty amazing to kind of grow and mature. And now we've found our interesting careers together in a way that has been pretty special.
I always find that interesting when people meet in college, especially freshman year of college. Like, is it different going through 4 years of college as a couple versus kind of like, you know, I don't know if you're in a sorority or a fraternity and all that stuff, but, you know, college can be a lot of different avenues. How did that work out?
Yeah, it's crazy to have known each other since we were so young. Yeah, and you're immature when you're in college, right? And you make mistakes, and we definitely grew up together, and it was hard in a lot of ways. It seems sometimes, you know, having known each other so long, it seems like you could envy people who, you know, meet when they're adults and they can both be adults together. But then there are a lot of great things about knowing each other since we were 18.
Love it.
Jared, you had this smile on your face about like your college career.
I mean, you know.
Did you guys see that smirk? It's just like, I'm just always fascinated by people who were in relationships during college.
Are you not fascinated by that?
No, I was like a habitual dater person. I was always in a relationship. But
yeah, next topic. Let's get there.
No,
Perfect.
No, we don't need to talk
We're
about
all
that.
spilling our secrets
Yeah,
on this
Right.
episode.
It's the champagne. So what's cool here in your story is that food has played a part from like almost your guys' first date, right? So you went to a Chinese buffet together, right? It has to start somewhere.
Then you have the college cafeterias for a couple years. Yeah.
College McDonald's.
Was there do you guys recall like the first meal that you guys decided to like cook together, or kind of that instant where you're like, oh man, this is kind of like fun, we can turn this into like a thing? Like what was that?
So we had some friends. It had been after we were married, so it was quite a while after we knew each other, but they had us over for dinner, another couple, and I don't remember what they made. Do you remember what they made?
The homemade sushi night?
Was that the first thing? Maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they made homemade sushi, which we enjoyed sushi, but never had considered making it at home.
Yeah, that can go either one or two ways, typically.
Yeah.
And
Homemade
it
sushi.
was just incredible. Like, it was just the best meal, and so we wanted to have them over to our house, and we had gone to Italy for a honeymoon. And
Lean
so
pockets.
We were like, we can make an Italian meal, and so we just opened up a cookbook and cooked straight out of it, and it wasn't great, but it was decent. And so I think that was that moment we were like, whoa, this is something different. Like, cooking can be fun. It can be a way to join community. It can be a way to, I don't know, spend time together with something new. We both had different interests in college, and so getting married, having something we knew nothing about to do together was pretty cool.
Like video games and
Sports.
French horn.
All the interests, right? So, you said you guys started the like blogging in 2010. What's that like? That terrifies me to put my writing out into the world. You know, and the times are a little different now. We're almost at a decade from where you said kind of that was just starting to kick off.
Mm-hmm.
So who were you writing to? Like, who was your audience, and like what was the motivation behind it?
Yeah, I remember. So in 2010, it was food blogs had been around maybe 3 to 4 years. And back in the day, I had Google Reader. Did you guys have that? No.
Don't even know what that is.
Oh, okay. It was a way to, what's the right word for it?
RSS reader.
RSS reader.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So you could subscribe to different blogs, and then they would all like all the new posts would pop into your reader, kind of like Feedly. And so I subscribed to all these food blogs. And I didn't even really get what food blogging was, but I knew there were all these pictures of food in my Google Reader, and they looked professional, and it was so just fun to scroll through them. And I started to kind of understand, like, oh, like strawberries are seasonal in the spring. Like, I didn't know anything about food. And so it started to kind of educate me just by kind of scrolling through pictures. And so when we decided to start our food blog, we're like, okay, we're going to put something out onto the internet. It was a very, very new thing at the time. And we just put some stuff out there. It was terrible photos, terrible writing, but we were passionate about it, you know? And so people started reading it, and we were like, who are these people? Back then it was different. There was a much lower bar in terms of professionalism for blogs. So basically people were just finding content out there, and it didn't have to be amazing. It just had to be interesting. And so people started finding our stuff and commenting on it and making our recipes, and we started being like, oh man, we got to have some good recipes. People are reading it and making our stuff.
Part of the story that we didn't share was, so around that same time, like between 2008 and 2010, we also started reading more about like just the food movement, starting to learn about eating processed foods and unprocessed foods. We read a book
Lean
called
Pockets would fall under the process.
Read a book called Food Matters by Mark Bittman, and he just kind of challenges you to eat a little bit less meat, not to go fully vegetarian, but try to eat all real food, cook your own food, and maybe eat less meat, like 1 day a week. And we tried that. We're like, oh, that's exciting. Like, it could be good for the environment. It could be healthy. And started going to the farmer's market. And so, like, around those 2 or 3 years, we were like, all these ideas were swirling. It was cooking and food and flavor, but it was also community and environment and health kind of all wrapped into one. And so those early blog posts were a lot of like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. You can eat quinoa. Nobody's ever heard of quinoa before. And it was just
like literally
that would have been an entire blog
quinoa.
post. It was like a 2-paragraph blog post. And
Well,
that's
at
what
that
we did.
point, nobody could pronounce it either, right?
Right. Like I remember writing the pronunciation of it so people could know how to say it. And it's amazing to see within 10 years that there's such a greater cultural understanding of foods.
Do you remember the first moment when you got a comment or a reader sent you an email or whatever that you just kind of like walked away and were like, oh my God, this is real. People are actually reading this.
I don't know if I remember the first time, but it definitely is a thrill to like have people say that they made something that you created, you know, like, and to this day, it remains a thrill. You know, we've been doing it for 8 years now, and it's still every time we get a comment from someone who loved the recipe, it's like someone giving you a hug. It just feels so gratifying to know that the work that we've put in to try to design a meal that's healthy and tastes delicious is affecting people's lives. That feeling never gets old.
It was a different landscape, though. There was no Instagram. There wasn't Pinterest. Twitter existed, but people didn't really know how to use it. So it was just like you had your blog and you could leave a comment, but it was a very different kind of ecosystem. There wasn't really a way to like share your content. So it was kind of wild.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about that. I mean, back then, what would you, outside of just posting on your blog on a website, I mean...
That's all you had to do.
Yeah.
MySpace.
And just hope
Yeah.
people kind of ran into... MySpace,
Yeah.
was that around then?
Yeah, but I don't think people really used it for promotion the way you would use.
Yeah, that
social
was like
media
more
now.
music
Yeah.
and just like friends.
Real people.
Yeah. So what was it the book that made you guys kind of go down that trajectory of kind of like vegetarian, vegan, like that kind of food that you guys wanted to be making?
Well, we had the blog for quite a while before we decided to do the book.
I think it's about Food Matters.
Oh, sorry.
That's my
Reset.
fault. Champagne.
Say
Remember.
that again. Say that again.
Was reading that book, is that kind of what set you guys down that trajectory to cook in that way or to start thinking about food in that way? Or was there something else?
Yeah, no, definitely reading that book changed the way that we looked at food. And it's been actually kind of exciting to the author of that book, Mark Bittman. Now, we just had him on our podcast
Nice. Congrats.
about a month ago.
Congratulations.
And that was a really cool full circle moment to be like, this person, you like changed the way that we thought about food and the world and kind of created our career, you know? So that's been really gratifying to be able to talk to him. But yeah, he was always a proponent of, you know, you don't have to go fully vegan. You don't have to go fully vegetarian. Just try one meal per week or 2 meals or whatever. And so we loved that very kind of loose approach to eating. And we still have that to this day. We're not vegan or vegetarian. We just like to eat a lot of vegetables. And that's kind of what our message is that, You can eat a lot of vegetables. You don't have to have a label for who you are or what that makes you into. And it can be delicious and it can make you feel really good. And so, yeah, that's kind of been the passion that fueled us, was helping people understand, how do you eat vegetables and make them taste good? Because a lot of people don't know how to do that. And so that became our reason for sharing things on the internet is, hey, there's this food called quinoa and it's actually really good. Or we roasted some sweet potatoes and they were so tasty. Or you can make your own French fries at home. Things like that where, you know, things we didn't have any idea existed, we now get to share them with the world.
When I think that there's a huge barrier to entry when it comes to cooking, right? I think, and I'll speak personally from my own experience, is just like you take a look at a recipe and it's just so daunting of like, okay, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, like it's going to take X amount of time. So something can be put simply, or something that even looks complicated that you can break down and say, hey, there's a much easier way to be doing this, is really what changed a lot for me when it came to actually cooking. I would just hate it. And my wife knows that I do all the cooking at home. So it's just like, it needs to be easy. I need to repeat it. Like I could eat the same meal every single day if I needed to for the rest of my life, but she cannot. So having simple recipes has always been like really important, just because, you know, you'll like get it your own way and not even start to try to do it.
Totally. That is exactly what our passion is like taking something that seems complex and making it simple. And that's why we wrote our book, Pretty Simple Cooking, because we wanted to show that things can be, you know, beautiful and have integrity of flavor, but also be simple and doable for the everyday person.
And when did that come up? So you had the blog, and then is the next progression the book after the blog?
So we had the blog start in 2010, and then I think our book contract we got in 2016.
Okay.
So 6 years later.
Wow.
Was there anything in between that?
Just a lot of sweat.
Hustler.
Yeah.
So that was our side thing for a really long time. So we both worked in the technical writing industry for the same business. I was his boss. I like to point that out.
That's not a scoop. She tells you.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was just, we did it on nights and weekends. So
Expand on that a little bit, because I think a lot
that.
of people struggle with the fact that it's like they have to go from 0 to 100 from, hey, I have this, you know, day job and I have this creative idea or this other passion. I've got to quit this to go there. So like, how did those 6 years? I mean, 6 years is a long time, by the way, people. So to be able to do that and have that, you know, side hustle or that side project, like, what was the evolution?
So the first, I'd say 4 years, there was no business aspect. It was 100% just passion project. We loved it. Another aspect of those early years were other people were starting blogs, so we grew a friend circle of other bloggers. And that's actually who was commenting a lot, and we were starting to meet people in real life. And so the reason we kept doing it was because it was a community, and that ability to share something, to create something and share it was just really special. And then as kind of the social media grew up, and then the idea of influencer marketing kind of was in its infancy, we realized we could make some money on it. And it was never anything close to where we'd consider it a career, but it's just like, oh, a little nice bonus cash every once in a while. And so it was really a slow evolution of understanding it as a business. It really truly started as a passion, which is great because I feel like that kind of set our vision for once it became a business, what we wanted to do with it. And we now know kind of various decisions we have to make. We kind of know what our mission is, and we're not ever confused. Like, should we try this or should we try that? We know where we started and kind of what our core is.
Was there a business plan written in there somewhere?
No.
Oh, we had one in 2017 when we actually quit our jobs. So yeah, it took that long before we really thought about it in that way.
What was the I guess precipice of you guys saying, okay, we're quitting our jobs, we're going for it?
Yeah, did you have a number in mind, or was there a goal that you set out there?
We had a kid.
Free hours and maxed out.
Yeah. So we adopted our son, and we decided that we really wanted to be more flexible with our careers. And so that was kind of, I went more full time into a couple of cooks when he came along. And then we were like, it would be great if Alex could be more flexible too. So then that kind of gave us the like impetus that we needed. But it was at that point, it was at the point where we could both comfortably be doing it at the same time.
Very cool.
And I don't want to leave this topic. I think that there's a ton of value that we can provide for anybody that's listening here. I know as we continue to grow what we're doing, we are very much in the same position, right?
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we started this purely out of passion. It still is passion, but you kind of use that, like you said, to really drive the decisions that you're ultimately going to be making when you see this business opportunity, right? And like, how do you navigate that? But for people out there that are listening that kind of have this view and this perception of like, oh my gosh, I just want to be like this Instagram influencer. Like, I don't think that they see all the work that goes into it. And 7 years is a hell of a long time, right? It's like a year longer than 6 years. I already said was a long time. So what were some of the things that you were doing, right, to get there, to gain an audience? And what were some of the successes that kept you going? And what were some of the failures that kind of made you second guess, like, is this actually a thing?
Is this actually a thing?
Putting food on the table.
Yeah, that's a good question. Trying to think of how to sum up.
Yeah, it's also a long question. Yeah,
It's a classic Fabian 5-parter.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I think we never started with the idea that we would be doing what we're doing today, and I think that when you're doing something out of passion, it helps you to actually achieve that goal, because you're not doing it for money. You know, you're doing it because you're passionate about the message and you're passionate about the creative process. And so I think that setting out with that goal made it successful, because it was a hobby and it is now a business. And in both phases, it was meeting its goal of, you know, fulfilling our mission. I think that a lot of the reason we're around today is just because we stayed in the game. And I tell people that all the time, who want to succeed in whatever field, is stay in the game. You know, like, we've been doing this a really long time, like you said. And because we started back in the dark ages of the internet, we were able to build up to what we are doing today. We are not that type of platform that experienced massive growth or are very, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Viral. Yeah. So we've never been super viral or anything, partly because our message is not like a 1, 2, 3, you can have the best diet in the world in 5 minutes. You know, it's a message that's real and authentic about how it is hard to change your lifestyle, but it can also be pretty simple. So I think that because we haven't been a viral growth, we've just been the slow and steady route, and that route can also be feasible. So just staying in the game and continuing to do what we do, continuing to push ourselves in every single realm: photography, writing, video, audio, podcasting, all sorts of platforms. Just continuing to try to be around people, consume media, and have goals of where we want to see ourselves, and then stay in the game. I think that has been, I guess, our key to success. And then, you know, we've had a lot of failures, and staying in the game again has helped us to stick around. Because if we have wanted to quit a lot, I wanted to quit a lot, but we stuck around, and now we're getting to experience the positive aspects of staying in the game.
So Sonja's got a personality of kind of getting stuff done. That's why she was my boss at the previous job. And I have like a very strong, like, optimist, we can do this personality. And so I think when we kind of put those two together, only one of us ever wanted to quit at the same time, which was a pretty good deal. I think from like a business perspective, one of the failures and successes was just learning how to price, like what our price point was. So we work with clients who we use their product and we talk about that product on our website and our Instagram. And so we're creating an entire like publicity package for them. We take pictures of their product, we talk about it, we share it, and
create a recipe.
We create a recipe and they can use that on their social media. And early on it was like, oh, somebody wants to give us money, I'll do that for $30. And we're just like, that's exciting. And then realizing, like, seeing yourself as a legitimate business took us probably 2 years maybe of like really understanding we have a value to offer. We are professionals and we shouldn't take jobs that aren't at that value. So that was kind of failures there for a little while that eventually became a success. We were able to understand what our price point was, understand our value, and then kind of build repeat customers has been a really big deal for us, where we know we have kind of long-term income coming in.
I feel like Jared's chomping right now.
No,
to
I was
ask
just
a question. No, because I'm like dying to ask a question, but I'm hogging the microphone.
If you're dying,
I'll live.
You're
I will
good.
live.
So I was just going to say, like, you know, to your guys' point, like someone who checks your Instagram, sees you have 76,000 followers, and they're immediately like, oh my gosh, like they're so successful. Like this must have happened overnight. Like, no, it's taken 6 to 7 years to get to that point. Because I know early on, we had that, I don't know what you'd call it, not dilemma, but that thought process where we're like, oh, we're still only, we haven't hit 3,000 followers yet. Like, why aren't we bigger than this? More people know about this. But it all takes time. It's gradual growth.
I think that's funny coming from you, because like you're the person, I feel like in our relationship that is like always like, why isn't it there right now?
I'm that person?
So yes, you're the Sonja.
No,
Wait, I was just going to say, who's the Sonja?
I'm the gradual person, no?
No, not at all. You're like, it needs to be there yesterday.
Oh,
like,
sorry.
what the hell are you doing? I'm like, dude, it'll get there.
Look, I just learned something new.
Yeah.
I thought that was me or you.
It only took you 100 episodes.
Yeah, right?
Hey, there you go. Plus the 8 that will never be aired. So where, and I find this so fascinating because we have a lot of these same struggles, is where do you cut that line? And I think that your business specifically can really tailor to this. It's like, where do you draw the line between like this altruistic thing that you're doing of like, I want to give people this content for free. Like I want to help people think a little bit differently about food or be a little bit healthier. And then where do you make that transition to, okay, hey, now I'm going to sell you a book, right? I've been giving you away this content for free. Now I'm going to charge you money for this. Like how do you navigate that decision? Because I think that's where we're struggling now, is like turning this into a business, and you guys have navigated that successfully. Like, what were those conversations like?
So the book was never really a business decision because, well,
it's like 100%.
It was never a financial decision.
Yeah.
I think it was good for the business in the sense of it kind of makes you seem legitimate to be a cookbook author. But it's not a great cookbook's hourly rate for a cookbook had to be like $2 an hour. I don't know.
We spent
we put a lot of time into it.
How does the process of that get started though? Does someone publisher come to you guys and say, hey, I want to do a cookbook with you? Is that how it works?
Yeah. We had some inquiries from publishers and agents, and we ended up getting a literary agent, and then we went through a pitching process. So pitched to like 12 publishers in one day, and then got a deal out of that.
Did you have to travel around, or they kind of come here?
No, we did it all via phone.
Okay.
So yeah, I just was on the phone all day one day.
We didn't actually meet our editor until after the book came out. So
yeah, so
it was all a virtual process.
Yeah.
But Sonja had always wanted to be just an author in general, being a writer. And there's just something different about a cookbook than a website. Like we would constantly get people asking, like, what should I make for dinner? Or where should I start if I don't know how to cook? And it's just hard to create that on the web. It's like so diversified in where everything is, and it comes and it goes. And so there's something about the tangible aspect of a book that we felt like would really be of value to our readers. So we didn't really worry about selling it as much as being able to create our vision. We wrote and photographed the whole book while we still had the jobs, day jobs. So it was like go to Starbucks in the morning, write 2 recipes, go to work, come home, test those recipes, and repeat for a year. So it was pretty nuts.
Is that how long it took you guys to write it?
So yeah, we spent
to get it done?
a year writing it and then a year editing it. So it was a 2-year process to get it out there.
At that point, by the time that it's done, are you just like,
You're sick
people
of
don't
it.
even eat carrots anymore?
Yeah, that was a very legitimate worry. It was like, will people still eat quinoa? Is it still going to be a thing? Will people eat kale? I don't know. Luckily, they still do.
But back to your question, I think there's this balance about giving people what they want compared to telling people something new and giving them like an original idea. Because if you give them what they want, then it's easier to grow. It's easier to follow. You give them that 5-minute healthy meal plan and they're like, oh, I can get healthy overnight, but there's nothing like behind it. And so we've but learning, I think since over the last 2 years, just kind of learning that balance of like, if people are looking for something, we should give that to them, but we'll do our own twist. We know what we're about now, and we can say, hey, people want mac and cheese. We can create a healthier mac and cheese or that sort of thing.
And give a shout out to the book again. Like, where can people buy it? Is it still available? Like, throw it out there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's available everywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and it's also locally a lot of places. I'm trying to remember everywhere. Homespun, Garden Table, Nicey Treat.
Silver in the City. Goose the Market.
Thank you.
And pretty simple cooking?
Pretty simple cooking.
Perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
And have you guys looked at your reviews on Amazon?
Yeah. They're luckily people are really nice.
Yes.
But you always have a troll.
Oh,
so a couple of weeks ago we got like a really mean troll.
It's unreal.
Yeah, where they like actually like really read it and then criticized it in like a way where you're like, oh, you actually read this book.
Yeah, I mean, you hated it.
And you are passionately against it.
On Amazon, you guys have I think a 96 or 98% of fives, which is absolutely amazing. So you guys are,
thanks.
5-star or 4.9 star. So, but you always have to read those one or two people that give 1 stars, and it just, I was actually reading it in front of Fabian earlier and just made me just cringe. I think I started yelling out loud. So I'm just like, why are people like this?
It's hard, and it's like I know that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it still hurts when you read it, right? And Alex is the guy who's like, don't worry about it. don't stress. And I don't know, maybe you do that too, Fabian.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. No, I think
you're the don't stress about it guy.
I really am though, in all relationships. But I mean, we've been fortunate. I guess that you could say we've also had like a 4.9 review.
Yes.
We had one bad review. We're still saving to put on a special T-shirt.
That'd be good.
Yeah, so that was bad. But I mean, was it difficult to make a decision to say, hey, we're gonna we want to make this a business? Like, did you lose followers? Did you lose like any of your audience trying to turn into a business? And maybe I'm like trying to project too much of what we're doing.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think in our industry, influencer marketing became kind of more normal. So people are more used to seeing sponsored content on someone's Instagram or blog. We work with only sponsors that we 100% believe in their product. They meet all of all the tests that we would say, would we actually buy this and use it? If not, then we don't work with them. And so I think our audience can respect that we work with sponsors that we respect, and they know that they can't just consume everything for free, that there are sponsors as part of media. And media has always had sponsors, like open a magazine and see all the makeup advertisements in the beginning of it. It's something that's normal. And so when we decided to take that step to start working with sponsors, it was hard to say, I think what we were doing in the beginning seemed very counter working with any business. But what we've started to realize is that so many businesses are also in line with our mission of providing good organic food for people at a low price point. And so when we decide whether we're going to work with a sponsor or not, they have to fit in those goals. So I'm not sure how that might relate to the way that you will grow your business, but for us, that was kind of the tipping point for us, and it has worked for us, and people, our listeners and readers, have respected that.
So we did actually we didn't have a business plan, but we had a mission statement before we started the blog, and making money was not in it at the beginning, and then we started putting advertisements on the blog fairly quickly, maybe within a year. They weren't really making any money, but we had to go back and revise the mission and be like, we're trying to do all these good things, and if we make some money, that'd be cool. And then a couple years later, it was we had a discussion. We're like, okay, part of the mission of this is now it's a business, and we don't have to shy away from making money. That's something you're allowed to change course. I'm a big fan of actually changing your mind and saying, I learned something new. I want to try to do it differently. So.
When I think creatives suffer from that a lot, right? And I'm not calling us creatives, but I'm just saying, speaking in generalities, is just valuing the work that you're putting out there, and maybe it's this insecurity that you won't get and I don't know what the right word is, but like either people won't like it, or you kind of feel like a fraud for charging
Lose
people
an authenticity
for it.
or something.
Right? Like I think I suffer from that a lot, of just being like, I don't feel right charging people for this, but like there should be nothing wrong with that, right? Like if our goal is to create a business, I think that should be celebrated, right? Anybody that goes out there that takes a risk, that says, hey, I'm going to go out there and do something, and just create something out of nothing, or try to create something out of nothing, shouldn't feel bad about it. But there's something about society that I feel like makes you feel bad about it, and it's so weird. And I've been struggling a lot with that lately. What about you?
I was gonna skip that because this isn't about us. This is about them. So
I mean, it's a conversation.
No,
man.
for sure. So you guys had the blog, you had that going, then you had the cookbook, and what other platforms have you guys used to kind of tell your story a little bit and connect with others?
Yeah, so we have the podcast as well. We started that.
So name of it?
2.5 years ago. Small Bites.
Small Bites. How did that come about?
Yeah, so
the name specifically.
Okay, well, it used to be called A Couple Cooks, the A Couple Cooks podcast, and then when we launched the book, so we podcasted 2 years, an episode every other week for 2 years, and then the book came out, so we took a break. And then we decided we wanted to kind of reformulate the podcast because, as you know, it takes a lot of work to create a podcast on top of all the other things that you're doing in life. And so we said, okay, how can we number one, make our podcast better? Number two, make it easier to produce because it takes a lot of our time and energy. And so we came up with the concept of small bites where it would be 15 to 20 minutes. So less than 20 minutes, something people can listen to on their commute, when they're folding laundry, whatever. And we would just hit it hard. We would bring in a guest, hit it hard with the topic, have like one topic in mind that we wanted to talk about with them, like one main idea about food. And then right before it, we would eat a small bite of food to be like, well, we kind of modeled it after
drink culture.
Well, drink culture, and then comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah.
So kind of like Seinfeld's show, but with food. And we wanted to like eat a little small bite before it. So we did 10 episodes of that, and now we're on a break again. So we're taking more breaks this time. But we enjoy the new format of being even more niched. Like we wanted to just get even tighter. And I think it's helped us to be able to produce a better show, and it takes less time to produce our show, which is also helpful.
We spent more time preparing and a lot less time creating, which was the big benefit there. We also lost my train of thought.
What other platforms are we on, Alex?
So we are trying to grow our YouTube now. So we have been making videos more this year, and just realizing like the value that video has for cooking, specifically like for instructional content. And so,
do you want to announce another thing we have never told anyone else?
Wait, is this breaking news?
This is breaking news.
All right.
Yeah, this is going to be out on February 27th.
Okay.
Today is February 27th.
So now they can access this. You listener can access this special YouTube series.
You pitch it.
Go ahead.
Okay, so for about 7 years, we've wanted to do a video series on knife skills. So educating people how to cut everything, because we feel like that is where we didn't know anything when we started, and we had a chef friend who helped us know how to like hold our knife and mince garlic, and that changed our world. And so we get a lot of requests for cooking classes, but we just don't have a lot of bandwidth to do in-person stuff a lot of times. So we were like, what if we could do it online and people could access it anytime? So we've talked about it literally for 7 years. And finally, we're like, let's do the knife skills. So last week, we shot 20 videos in one day. It was really exhausting. And then we just today finished editing all of them, putting them all in blog posts.
You're making it sound easy. It's like last week we did that, today we did this.
Hold on.
We've put in like hundreds of hours into there.
Both of you hold your hands up. Okay, guys, they have knife skills. All their fingers, all 10 digits are still there.
So that's a special thing about our job, and one of the reasons we wanted to do it was we have extreme flexibility. We work a lot of hours, but we work our schedule. We have a 2-year-old that requires a lot of time, but every time he's sleeping, we're getting stuff done. And so we recorded all these videos and we've been editing nonstop, and it's really fun to see it in action. It's like, oh, this is actually like we feel like it's like the best collection of how to cut everything on the internet, or
We
will
hope.
be.
We hope.
And
to be
about how
the
long are
best.
these videos?
Each one is about a minute.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what's the series called? Like, where can people find it?
Well, what is it called? It's called.
Can we
It's called
come up with a name right now?
Oh yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. What would
I'm
you
sure.
like it to be
Jared,
called?
you were very excited about
No,
that.
I'm just kidding.
No, it's called Basic Knife Skills for Home Cooks! !
Very descriptive.
Yes.
That's like SEO magic.
Right.
Exactly.
It is. Sorry, it is
No, that's
SEO
awesome.
magic. But yeah, so we're going to be releasing those all at once. It's been so much work to get it out there, but we're really excited about having that as a resource for people. It's totally free. It's just people can see. We're going to link to it in our recipes too. When we say mince the garlic, then you can click on it and see
that's
like
cool.
how do I actually do that. So that's kind of a dream project that we are doing. It will be free to everyone. It's who knows if it will pay off in the end, but it's just a something. Part of our mission is education, and so that's been a cool thing that we got to do lately.
I'm really into sourdough bread, and we did a massive video series for that in October. It was 3 videos, but it took a lot of effort because sourdough takes like several days to put together, and that kind of sat out there. I think we released that in October, and then just recently, speaking of SEO, it started to climb in Google, and so people are starting to find it now, like 3 months later. And people are making that bread and like tagging us on Instagram just in this last week. And it's just been really fun to see. Like, that's the best part of this job for us is like, oh, this person didn't know how to make bread and now they're making it and they're so excited about it. They're sharing it in a totally like organic way. It's really the best.
What got you about sourdough?
I like the slow process, actually. Kind of like we do Chemex for our coffee. Like, there's such a fast-paced world. There's something about being slow, and I mean, the end product is better. Like, it tastes incredible, but I like the really tangible, like, hands-on process of it.
And so there's a whole subculture on sourdough, right? Like keeping like the mother yeast or something.
Oh, yeah.
So do you have a name for yours? Are you keeping it? Like, are you aging it? What's going on there?
Mine's actually in my freezer right now. We haven't made any since Christmas, unfortunately. We took a
His
break.
name was Stardy,
Yeah, it was Stardy.
but I don't know if he's still alive.
It was it's still alive. It's just
Oh,
in
okay.
a deep freeze. It was taking daily feeding. So
cryogenically first.
So how do you keep that? Do you just pull like there's not an infinite amount? Do you just like pitch into the new bread and then take from the new bread?
So the starter you keep separate, and you basically throw out most of it every day if you're not making bread, or you put it in bread, and then you leave like a tablespoon behind, give it some more food, which is just flour and water, and then it just keeps growing forever.
it's like a science project every day.
But the most magical thing is that magical sourdough yeast is just floating around your house. So all you do is like put flour and water out, wait 5 days, and then you have a starter. So it's just like, it just
it's
appears.
just that simple.
Broad ripple
Yeah.
sourdough bread.
yeah,
right?
basically.
Very local yeast.
Yeah.
How do you guys split up your responsibilities? Like, is there like specific roles in between that you guys negotiated, or
This was one of those failures from early on, is that we tried to split everything 50-50, and that was ugly.
I'm sure you guys have had a similar challenges where you're working your business partners and you're trying to figure out like who's good at what. And so, yeah, that's taken quite a while to figure out. But I'm the main writer, communicator. So I do all the blog, all the social media. I do all communication with clients and business emails. We split recipe development. So that's the one place where we both do it together, which is really fun. And then do I do other things?
It sounded like a lot. I'm sure we do more.
Okay. But you do a lot more things.
So I do all the technical side as far as the website development, and then all the photography, most of the food styling,
Podcast editing,
podcast
YouTube editing,
anything technical.
video shooting.
So
You're doing a good job. Your aesthetic is awesome.
Oh,
I love it.
thank
I wasn't
you.
kidding when I said that island is iconic, right? Like, it always just photographs so well.
Oh, thank you.
it's taking a long time. We're actually going through now old recipes and making them again to make sure they taste good, and then reshooting them, which is kind of fun. It's like
To
cleaning
see
out.
the old pictures is like seeing yourself in braces or something. It's so embarrassing.
So we've
But
been
it's good to,
cleaning that up, and it's kind of fun.
to like see where you've come from, I guess.
I also noticed that you got child-proof. What are they called? Like locks on the cabinets,
yeah.
and when we plugged in earlier, you had the child-proof. So was that a challenge? You know, having a child around after not having a child around, and then all of a sudden, like you've got to make sure that the house is in the kitchen, especially. I mean, that's something.
Jared's
Well, I
trying to
know.
get
Yeah,
insider
I
knowledge.
guess I'm going.
Breakables are above 4 feet, if you've noticed.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel we just love it. It's so fun to just have him around. He's at an age now where he understands stuff and he watches everything and he loves to imitate what we're doing. So now he can like put a pinch of salt. We've like taught him to put a pinch of salt on
Does he do
stuff.
this thing?
Yep, he goes.
Little salt.
Little
Is it
Bay.
gonna,
Salt Bay
is it going to
action.
eventually be like a couple more cooks, or is there going to be a new title? Like a
I don't think so.
Maybe we'll give
I
him a
think-
spin-off. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be a few cooks at that point.
A couple cooks and a toddler or something. Yeah, but no, it's been so fun. You're gonna love it.
We
It's
did
so
like
fun.
our knives moved from the countertop to a drawer with a lock on it. So there are a few technical things that you have to kind of worry about, but we've
It
just
goes
thrown them in.
slowly. Yeah.
And what's been fun is he'll eat anything we eat. Like he's kind of picky if you're like sit there in the chair and eat this food, but if you sit down at a meal with him, he'll eat anything we're eating. So it's been fun to already at a young age. He's really eaten a lot of things, more things than we probably ate in 25 years. So.
which is impressive because I know I certainly did when I was a kid.
What does it like a day look like for you? So again, to go back to anybody who kind of wants this life and wishes this upon themselves, and then they're thrown into it, right? And they actually get what they wish for. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So we cook a lot. We're always in the kitchen.
Wait, hold on. So
Testing
the alarm
recipes.
goes off.
Oh wait, we're doing that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I literally within 10 minutes of waking up, I check to make sure the website's working.
Yeah.
Like that's the main thing of like nothing can go wrong. Like, are there people on the website? Is it
Because
going?
it breaks.
I was going to say, has it
sometimes.
happened
Yeah,
before? Have you
yeah.
woken up and been like, oh, website's not working?
Not recently. We've invested in higher quality servers, but yeah, it happened in the past. And like your whole livelihood is dependent on the internet, which is a little bit scary since it's somewhat out of your control. So we think about that. We have learned how to schedule our blog posts, like make sure what we posted is scheduled and all that sort of thing. So we have a lot of just kind of schedule-y, calendar-y stuff. But then
Lots of spreadsheets.
we're cooking every recipe now. We probably make 2 or 3 times before we put it online. And so we basically eat the same thing all week and then eat something
We're
different
like
the following
you.
week.
I'm like you. I could eat the same
Yeah.
thing forever.
So we have a ton of leftovers in the fridge of the same pot of not as good. Like today's version will be better than yesterday's, but we still have to eat yesterday's soup or whatever.
Is that what we're getting? Yesterday's.
No, you're getting the final
No.
photographed product, so that's pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
You're getting something.
And you're getting a dessert,
good.
which there's not a lot of desserts on the blog.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys remember any disaster recipes?
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
we're at like
We have
10
so
a.m.
many.
Hold
Oh
on.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was.
Sorry.
So we do have
Are we doing
childcare.
that?
Like he goes to preschool a couple days a week, which is nice, where we can actually sit down and schedule. And we have business meetings. We use Asana, the like task management system.
Yep.
Do you guys know what that is?
I do.
Do you say asana or asana?
Asana.
Asana.
Yeah.
So
I always ask people because I have
don't-
no idea.
Yeah.
Asana.
I don't know if I'm saying it right, but that's what I say.
So it's like a task list where we can assign it to each other. So for example, a typical recipe will be like, I had this idea. Sonia assigns it to me and says, write a recipe. So I go and write a recipe, and then I assign it back to her to test it, and then or to review it, and then we test it, and then eventually it gets to the photograph stage, and then eventually to the photographs edited stage, and then the tested or the written stage, and then it gets posted. So just for like a single post, it has
There's a workflow.
a big workflow of what that is going on. So a lot of our time is just like, what are we doing this week? What client needs do we have? What creative needs do we have? And then we kind of split up and do our own work.
And what's the split on creative versus client work?
Yeah. It just depends on kind of our influx of it all. Just kind of we're at the mercy of the sponsors. It's kind of been a quiet January. We actually did a lot of sponsor stuff up front in January to kind of hit the healthy eating excitement. And then now it's kind of balanced out
So
to about one per week.
We share 2 recipes a week. I'd say one
one
per
recipe
week
per
or
week
is
would be a sponsored. And we do 2 new ones per week. And then usually like a third post that's maybe a roundup of some recipes with a theme. For example, today I posted about vegetarian sandwiches. 10 amazing vegetarian sandwiches.
What was the best one?
I was going to ask that.
There's this, here, let me show it to you.
Yeah.
A rainbow vegetable sandwich that I think is really beautiful. It has different vegetables in it that are all different colors of the rainbow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That looks good.
Yeah.
What is that? What's
So
the
we've
sauce
got-
on there?
So we've got some herbed goat cheese spread,
Mm.
a red onion, avocado, some roasted peppers, yellow and red, and then some pickled onions on top.
That looks
Pickled
delightful.
onions
Yeah.
are my jam.
So good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real good.
Are we still on a day?
Are we?
Are we through the day, Fabian?
So
you yelled at me a little bit ago.
we generally will try to have a dinner recipe to test. So we're usually testing something even for dinner, and then
we put our son down around 7, and then usually we do computer time from 7 to 9ish, or 10 sometimes.
or 11 or midnight.
Because some days we are watching him. He goes to preschool 3 days, so other days we're watching him. And then is Netflix time,
Gotta have
starting
that.
at like 10 p.m. Yeah.
And that's a day.
I don't know if we really answered your question very well,
No,
but
that's-
a lot of food photography, a lot of cooking, and then just a lot of computer time. We have been doing a lot of SEO stuff. So that's just a lot of like research on our computers, slogging away.
Well, I think if anything, it shows that like this is actual work.
Yeah.
Like it's not just, oh, let me take a picture with my iPhone. Like, that
Right,
shit is not
right.
like that won't fly.
Yeah. We have a big professional setup.
And I think part of that, working on it for 7 years as a side hustle, we knew at that point, like there is something like if you're a wonderful baker, like you maybe don't want to run a bakery. Like
Yeah.
some people, or if you play the French horn, maybe you don't actually want to run it as your career in an orchestra. But we realized we enjoyed that work. It's like hard work, but it's something we liked. We got past the just, this is creative and fun. And we realized, oh, we like the business aspect of it too.
Yeah.
How do you guys take vacations?
Since we're our own bosses, we can just kind of go whenever we want.
We tend to work ahead, so we'll schedule out our posts for a week.
Like, do you shut
Yeah.
off completely when you go on a vacation, or is there
No,
always?
we
No.
always are on Instagram.
Yeah. Could you shut off completely?
Yeah.
If you,
If we wanted to.
you just
Yeah.
don't.
No.
And I don't say
mean,
that in a bad way. 'Cause
Yeah,
I'm
I
the same.
mean-
I'm the
I
same
think at this
exact
point
way.
we have enough client needs that we'd have to be at least managing our email. But we could stop posting on the blog and Instagram for a week and nothing
I
would
don't
happen.
think anyone would miss us.
Have you thought about hiring other people? Like, is it to the point where do you guys want to get to that point, or would you rather keep it like a lifestyle business between the two of you?
We would love to keep it the two of us. So that is, a lot of people ask us, like, how do you want to grow it? And we would love to not have employees just for ease of lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few people who do contract stuff for us. We've hired out like our Pinterest, and we have an SEO person who helps us with a few things, but we love just working together. And I was manager before Alex managed people too, and it's just a whole nother level of stress. So we would love to keep it small or keep it manageable where we can run it, the two of us.
Back to my question when I got yelled at by Fabian. Can you
right.
recall a disaster recipe
Oh,
or
yeah.
something that you guys came up with, and you're just like, gosh.
I'm glad you
Yes.
held on to that one.
Oh, I wrote
Yeah.
it down.
Totally
I
forgot it.
I've always loved the disasters.
No,
It's-
we have so many disasters. Well, the one that I'm thinking of wasn't for the blog. It was just a cooking disaster. But we had some friends over for dinner, and we found this recipe for chicken under a brick. It's this Italian method where you cook it on a grill and you put a brick on top of it. And we're like, this sounds so cool. So we like put the chicken on the grill, put the brick on it, and then like went out a little bit later, and it was like in flames. They were like massive flames that just like charred the chicken all. And we had company over, so we felt really embarrassed about it.
What was
And
what
We
was
did
it?
at
I
least.
think we had the blog at that point. So, having a blog makes you feel like people expect you to like make good food for them. So we're like, okay, we just burned your dinner.
Did the brick serve as a symbol, or what was the
It was somehow
Like pressing it down?
It keeps it
pressed
flat,
it
so it's supposed
down.
to
interesting
grill evenly in theory.
Dope.
I'm sure
Cooked
there
chicken
are.
with
it's
a
like
brick.
old school panini or something.
Yeah.
What else? There are other better failure stories.
I mean, I feel like most of them just involve things catch on fire.
Yeah.
Croutons.
Oh yeah, I always burn croutons if I put them in the oven. So I've definitely burnt those when I have people over for dinner.
I think more often it's not a failure as much as like I was excited. I wrote this recipe, we made it, and it's just like bleh. It's like I don't even want to try again.
So many, especially for the book. We would have some recipes. We used lots and lots of independent testers. So we just did a call out on Instagram and said, "Hey, does anyone want to be a recipe tester for our book?" We got several hundred people who wanted to be, and so we would send out our new concepts that we're excited about, and then some people, like, the feedback would come back and we would be so nervous, and then they would give it like a 1 out of 5 and be like, "Oh, I'm so sad." So we had not tons, but we had a fair amount of those where we would just have to scrap the idea and be like, okay, if no one can make it and recreate it in the same way that we liked it, then it's not a good recipe.
Do you guys feel the pressure when you have friends over?
Yeah,
like you have to cook a 10 out of 10 meal every single time?
Yeah, kind of. But
not really.
We're like, I mean, we're like pretty relaxed about.
I mean, we cook pretty
dinners with
simply,
people.
so I feel like
I think if we
chances
were to
are we're
cook
not
for
gonna
you,
screw up.
we would feel pressure.
Well, you
Why?
should.
Yeah. Especially when I'm eating the same thing every day.
Oh, good point. Good
Yeah.
point.
so pizza has kind of become our like big
Yes.
thing that we do for guests, and we have a little pizza oven called a uni. Have you seen those?
No, I'm not.
They're portable ovens. So it's not like one of those big brick ones, but it's still wood fired. It uses little pellets that are like in Traeger grills,
Yeah.
but it gets this tiny little aluminum oven up to 1,000 degrees, so you can like cook a pizza in 90 seconds. So that's been pretty awesome as far as like our go-to. We're having people over and want to impress
What's
them.
it called? Uni?
Yeah.
Except you
O-N-I.
have burned a lot of pizzas.
Well, I've learned
in
how to do it
the
now.
oven.
Was that
when
a
we had
sponsor
company?
gift?
Char is
No,
good.
actually,
Yeah.
it wasn't. This was just like a friend of ours found it. And
Uni, if you're listening to
yeah.
this, shout out.
Seriously,
Just kidding.
yeah.
But yeah, we do love pizza.
Yeah, I'm on a huge Trader Joe's cauliflower crust pizza.
Ooh,
Nice.
Yeah, that stuff is amazing. So
Good.
So, would you like to try? Speaking of food, would you like to try what we made for you?
yes,
Of course.
this is I joke, and you don't have to stay around and listen to this story because it's pointless. But I joke that this is turning into an ASMR podcast.
Oh yeah.
Like the last few episodes,
Yeah.
we've,
We had a
drinking
good
or eating
20-minute
or something,
conversation
yeah.
in the last one. We can start whispering each other again.
Well, no,
That gets weird.
Ashley was actually the one we were talking about Ashley Brooks earlier today. She's the one that kind of told me about what that was because we asked her what she was currently obsessed with, which we will ask you, and she said it was ASMR videos.
Did you see there was a Super Bowl commercial that was ASMR?
I think so.
Yeah.
Was it
It's
the
like mainstream now, I think. If it's a Super
was it
Bowl
the Andy
commercial.
Warhol commercial?
Is Alicia Keys maybe? I forget.
I can't remember now, but I was like, wow, this is like very mainstream now if it's on a Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
Are you
Anyway.
going to get them some food or what?
Oh, I thought you were going to get it.
Well,
I
let's
was
send
sending
one
you
of
the-
you, and then
Okay.
the other one kind of brag a little bit because you guys have been featured on a lot of different shows or a lot of different blogs, websites, a lot of different places. Can you talk about some of those? And I mean, I think your story is so interesting because here you are in Indianapolis, Indiana, in Broad Ripple more specifically. 76,000 followers on Instagram. Like, you guys have a real thing, amazing thing that you've put together, and a lot of people don't know you're here. And I mean that in the kindest way possible. Like, can you share some of those like national recognized areas that you've been?
Sure. I guess the biggest one was the Today Show in New York City. Was
It's kind of a big deal.
crazy to be able to be on there. We were there on the show in March, right after our book launched. So that was crazy.
That's awesome.
Dream. Yeah, I got my hair and makeup done sitting next to Carson Daly, which was so weird. He just like came in and sat down, and I was like, oh.
Were you like a Carson
You're
Daly
Carson
fan growing up?
Well, I mean, I saw him on TV.
Like
you know,
TRL?
yeah,
That's what it was. I
It
was
was
like, what
just
was he
so
on?
weird to
Total
think
Request
about. Like,
Live.
what if I told my high school self that this was happening? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did
so
you ask
that
for an
was-
autograph?
I didn't. I didn't know what to say. Usually, I would say something to someone, but I was like, "What do I? I don't even know." So I just sat there, smiled, give him a little smile.
Like, how did that even come about?
So our publisher for the book pitched them, and somehow they said yes. I don't even know. One of their producers is from, or her boyfriend is from Indiana, so she had been following us. So I don't know if there was some kind of connection there. But
Ooh, the dessert's
yeah.
coming out.
You know, I just yelled at somebody the other day for that exact thing that you just said.
Oh, what did I say?
I think
about how we're from Indiana,
you
and
were
she
like
kinda justified it.
qualifying the fact that you were on the show because somebody may have been from Indiana and they possibly were like following you and they could have told somebody else. No, you guys deserve that.
Oh, thank you.
Now I'm nervous because you guys don't have anything in front of you.
Oh.
and now
We
you guys
already
are just
had
watching
our
it.
test
We-
pieces.
we've
We had
already
to
had
have a
it.
whole test
So-
cake. So
So,
So
talk,
this is
talk us through
this
this.
is
Yeah.
to celebrate 100 episodes.
Thank you.
Congratulations. This is a Greek yogurt cherry cheesecake.
Wanna cheers?
Take a bite first, and I'll tell you more about it.
Cheers. Delicious. Fabian's he's gonna give you a very thorough response here.
I love cheesecake. And I love this cheesecake.
Oh, good.
It's so creamy.
No, this is very good.
Good.
So
Thank you.
said it's Greek yogurt?
So yeah, we tried to lighten it up a bit, but still make it taste really good. So it has a healthy spin, but it's not healthy. I wouldn't call it a healthy dessert. But it has Greek yogurt. It has a lot of cream cheese. It has sugar in it. It has no crust. So Alex was like, "Hey, what if we do a crustless cheesecake?" And I was like, "That sounds weird," but
I had to prove to her that it could be a good idea.
yeah, so it's a thing. I had never heard of it before. But so we were like, hey, it makes it easier to make and it's healthier because
And
there's
like,
no
why
crust,
waste the calories
so,
on crust?
yeah.
All you really want is the cheesecake.
You want the good part.
So is this like a no bake?
No. And this is
It is a bake.
It was a bake. And so this is where we love to make things as simple as possible. So my first one, I was like, I'm just going to throw out the way everybody else does it. And we made it. And it tasted good, but it had like the cracks on top and it kind of collapsed. We're like, okay, I have to like go ahead and go back through and put back what is the basis for making a good cheesecake. So you actually cook it in a water bath. So it gets this really slow cooking temperature. And that's what makes it so creamy and so good.
And then on top there
Yeah,
are
this is
3 different
absurd.
types of cherries. And then it's brushed with a glaze made of the juice from the cherries.
What kind of cherries?
They are tart cherries, sweet cherries, and then like a light sweet cherry. So since our listeners cannot see it, it's like a very dark red, a medium red, and then almost a yellow color for the light cherry.
Impressive. This is absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
wouldn't
good.
I wouldn't lie about it. And I love sweets, so I would eat
Good.
this.
I'm so glad.
I would eat this every single night.
We also
agree.
chose to keep it the healthy spin. Some cheesecakes are super tall, like it could be 2 times that size. But we wanted to keep the portion size down. Otherwise, this used 2 whole packages of cream cheese. You would have to use like 4 packages of cream cheese.
It's that
So-
Julia Child method.
Yeah.
Start with a bunch of butter and cheese.
Exactly.
Right. So we kept it kind of a modest size of cheesecake as well to keep it a little on the healthier side, but still, I mean, it tastes decadent.
Well, I think if you're gonna commit to dessert, like just throw the fact that like you're being healthy for
Right.
the most part just out the window.
The
Just
primary thing is to enjoy
dessert.
yourself.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we just had food, right? So what do we do next?
Go to sleep.
I mean, that would work, yes.
No, talk about the drinks that we had in front of us.
Let's do it.
Okay, so
Can you pronounce it? Because I was struggling earlier.
I'm gonna do my best. So we've got a 2003 vintage of Dom Perignon champagne. So this is like the real legit champagne from the Champagne region. It's not sparkling wine, guys. So I told a story. I don't know if this has been edited out yet or not. I haven't decided whether we tell that story. But yes, I brought this just to celebrate 100 episodes. And So we put this in a lineup with about 4 other champagnes one time. We had some friends over and we just had like this champagne tasting, and it was all blind. And I credit that to Jared for being able to kind of do that sort of exercise to really weed out any false pretenses that you may have based on price or any assumptions you have about something just because of the name. And surprisingly, this ranked last. But today, and I think experience really plays into a lot of things. Today, this is amazing. Like, I absolutely love it. And it could also be due to the vintage, like when you're drinking it. So I know that these peak at certain points, but today I thought it was delicious. So I'm glad that we were all able to share this. But Jared, what do you think?
I love it.
I think it was good. I'm not much of a champagne drinker or a champagne drinker at all. So I thank you for sharing, and I will cheers to your empty glass and say thank you.
I love champagne. I love bubbles. And I loved this. It was perfect. And I agree with you that food can taste different in different scenarios. It depends on who you're with, what the vibe is, what you're eating it with. And so much of food is, like nostalgia or, the good feelings that we have about things. So this has a good memory for me of your 100th episode.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to give a review? I'm going to finish Sonja's here as I drank mine a long time ago. I very much enjoyed it. I feel like
One, very well done.
It was dry, which I like. Sweet champagnes are really gross to me. But it tasted like wine. I feel like a lot of champagnes don't taste like wine. I'm a wine drinker, not really champagne, and it tastes like a good white wine, but has that bubbly effect. So I don't know. I'm not sure I'd call it out in a blind taste test as fancy, but I enjoyed it.
It's good. Yeah. I like your description of it. I would agree. So I give it 2 thumbs up. Should we transition into some rapid fire brought to us by our friends?
Yeah, what friends?
Our friends over at Naptown Fitness.
Oh.
Tell me about them.
I know those guys. So Naptown Fitness, located 2 different locations. We have one here in Broad Ripple, so 5255 Winthrop, right next to Speakeasy and Leader House, and also downtown at 922 North Capitol. Naptown Fitness, we do have 3 staple programs. We got our Naptown Nutrition program, so we will steer you away from those lean pockets and focus a little bit more on that whole food dynamic of what we should be putting in our bodies, and just educating people all together on what we should be eating and kind of putting into our systems. Then we have our fitness component as well. So we have our Swift, our boot camp class. We have our CrossFit program. We have our personal training side of things. And then last and definitely not least is our mindfulness side. So practicing the yoga, which personally I think everyone needs a little bit more yoga in their lives, whether that's just breathing or some flexibility and stretching or just being more present and being more mindful. Fabian, when's the last time you did yoga?
In Denver, both like Friday and Saturday morning.
All right, never mind then. So, Alex, Sonja, when's the last time you did yoga?
Maybe a week or 2 ago. We do workouts at home, so it was some YouTube yoga. But
Very cool.
yoga,
What YouTube yoga channel?
Adrian, Yoga with Adrian.
Okay.
She has like 1 billion views.
I was going to say that's the main one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or the
I
big
had
one?
you pegged for a DDP yoga couple. Yeah. Diamond Dallas Page yoga. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because we talked about it.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us, enlighten us.
So
It's funny. I feel like this. I feel like the Naptown Fitness sponsorship's turning into DDP yoga sponsorship. This is the second time this has happened. So thank you, Fabian, for doing that again.
So Diamond Dallas Page was a professional wrestler who decided that he wanted to do yoga, and now he's got these like bajillion-dollar like DVD empire for yoga. But
I just realized I was chewing on microphones. So sorry.
that's all good. But I've been a member at Jared's gym for 6 years, and I will continue to say that. But that they've built the greatest community that you could be a part of. So if you don't believe me, and I'll stand by it, but if you don't believe me, go check it out for yourself. I think people can sign up for a no sweat intro. It's like 15 minutes.
Yep, it's free.
It's free.
No sweat intro, no snack intro, no stretch intros.
Yeah.
So all 3 ways to get in.
Hashtag curated, but yeah, go check them out. CrossFit Naptown.
Fabian's
Naptown
really,
Fitness.
he's really getting after it, huh? I guess we built a relationship, huh? After 100 episodes.
Yeah.
You got some
Naptown
people laughing
Fitness.
finally.
Right.
So what's hopping to that rapid fire? Because that was a really long sponsor to read.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think the most underrated vegetable is?
I'm going to say fennel.
Oh, that was what I was going to say. It's only because we just edited the video for fennel for our knife skills.
So if you've not cooked with fennel, it's amazing. One of our most favorite fan favorite soups on our blog uses fennel in a tomato soup, and it tastes like liquid pizza. So
Really?
yeah, it actually made our
man.
cookbook as well. It's a really
We'll
great,
call it pizza soup, yeah.
really great soup.
Pizza
So fennel, cook
That
with
sounds
it.
right up my alley.
I'll
Favorite?
send it to you.
Did you guys both answer?
Yeah, fennel.
That's what I thought of first, but I think it was just because I just
Same.
looked at that video of fennel, but I agree with that answer.
Favorite restaurant in the city? Let's go Broad Ripple and then downtown.
Okay. The hard part about being in the food scene is you have friends at a lot of different restaurants, so then you feel bad if
It's
you
okay.
don't say.
We can hurt feelings.
Okay, so Broad Ripple, I am going to say, I'm going to give 2 answers. Sorry.
Illegal.
Now I want to give
I'm
3.
just
Okay, no, I'll do 2. I love Napoli's. Super good pizza, really amazing salads that change seasonally, and you can go there for anything. I feel like it can be fancy, it can be casual, you can bring your kids, it doesn't matter. So love Napoli's, and then I was going to also say Ukiyo, if you guys know that restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Japanese inspired, really good sushi, and small plates. How about you?
Fat Dan's.
Yeah.
Right around the corner here. You can walk there. Everything's amazing. Not necessarily the healthiest whole food stuff, but that's all right.
So I'm gonna go part B of the question. Downtown.
Downtown. I love Bluebeard. I've loved it for a long time. Just really, really good food. Love the environment.
Rook is pretty awesome. Haven't been there in a while. One of our favorites.
I love Garden Table too.
Mhm.
Just a really nice vibe and good lunch food.
All right, we got the hard question over with.
Yeah.
Thank you
That's
for
technically a 2-for-1 because they're in Broad Ripple and downtown.
a good point.
Good point. I like the downtown one though. The
I-
vibe there.
What are you currently obsessed with?
She wants to say Terrace House, which is a Japanese reality show on Netflix. She's just embarrassed to say it.
Tara's house.
Terrace, like
Terrace,
a
got
patio. Terrace House. Check it out.
It's in Japanese.
It is. It's subtitled, but you will love it. You need to devote the rest of your life to watching all the past seasons.
How many seasons are there?
There's like 3 on Netflix. Yeah.
But what about the underground ones that you've been watching?
We're not there
that
yet.
was that look. You're like,
Yeah,
tell me about the other
they
one.
exist. They just aren't.
Can you give us
subtitled,
like a
so.
20-second like synopsis?
So 3 girls and 3 guys live in a house together, and drama ensues, and then there are commentators, like Japanese commentators, that make fun of it all.
All right.
It's pretty funny.
You learn
So
about
this is like the
Japanese
real
culture.
I was gonna say this. Yeah.
Well, there's no like manufactured drama. They all keep their jobs, and it's just like their roommates, and so it's all like you ate my bologna sandwich.
But it's reality TV
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
wow.
So, but it's not. There's no challenges, and nobody gets kicked off or anything like that. It's just you watch them live. So you learn a lot about Japan, which is cool. That's the
I'm
best
interested.
part. Yeah, and you start if you watch enough, you start picking up Japanese words, which I'm not really great at picking up foreign languages, but they are like it's all conversational. So you like pick up all these words, which is fun.
I didn't really want to talk about that.
I know, but you gave me the look. You're like, I want to say Terrace House, but I can't. It's the only thing I'm obsessed with.
What other things could we be obsessed with right now? Working out, though we do it at our house, and we probably should do it at Naptown Fitness.
I appreciate that. But you can also
working.
You can also work out at your house.
But we've been doing a lot of YouTube workouts, and it's been really working, which has been fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. Just get off the couch.
Yeah.
You don't have
Yeah.
to be somewhere to work out.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I dig it.
So that's been good. Any other obsessions that we have?
That's all I got.
Okay.
What keeps you up at night?
our toddler. Though he has been sleeping through the night most nights, so it's not true anymore.
I think right now we're in a pretty lucky season where things feel relatively secure and we're not kind of freaking out about anything. We are feeling satisfied and not necessarily anxious about what's next. So we've been through a lot of other seasons over the last years, so it's nice to just kind of enjoy this current season.
What do you got?
Favorite coffee shop?
Coffee shop.
Provider.
So our favorite coffee is Blue Mind, which roasts
Do you guys know them?
right down the street here. So
They're like a few houses up from us.
I know houses.
Yeah.
Huh?
yeah, so we drink our coffee extremely locally, even though all the other Indianapolis roasters are great. We don't get out for coffee as much. The Open Society,
Provider.
yeah, you go to Provider. Open Society closed, which is a bummer because that was the
Really
best one that we could
close
walk to.
us, yeah.
But I think Greg Hardesty is opening up some sort of weird coffee shop over by Naptown, is what I heard.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Another exclusive.
Yeah.
Wow.
There we go. We're releasing a lot of things. I had a really good question just a second ago. Now I just forgot it.
I'll ask a follow-up. You mentioned wine earlier. What's your go-to wine?
We went to Sonoma last summer, so the Sonoma County Pinot Noirs are currently a favorite, but otherwise it's like any no-name Spanish wine. I love Spanish wines, so Spanish reds
Like
especially.
Tempranillo or
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not good at pronouncing this.
I found like we're not super educated on wine, so we're like a $8 to $12 bottle type of people, and I found that the European cheap wines seem to be better than American cheap wines. So
5 years from now, where is A Couple Cooks?
that's the big question.
I don't know.
We would love to write another cookbook if we can. Maybe figure out how to get onto TV or do some sort of cooking show. Just continue to expand, kind of put ourselves out there and see what will happen.
All the producers listening right now, you hear that? We've got a show for you. Reality?
We would love to do like a travel cooking show. So we'd love specifically traveling in the Mediterranean. That's where we honeymooned, and then we went this summer, and most of our cooking is inspired by like Italy and Spain. And so we would love to do a cooking show where you go experience a place, like go to Italy and eat the best pizza, and then take concepts from that and show people how to bring it into their everyday cooking.
Very cool.
I would watch that show.
Yay.
But
Good.
it'd be in Japanese.
Definitely watching the show.
All right, we'll wrap it up with the last question here. Who would you guys recommend as a future guest for the show?
I forgot to prepare.
Good
Well, I forgot to
question.
prepare you guys, so I blame it on me.
No, I knew that.
Well, I would recommend.
Sorry, I was
Oh.
I was like this, chomping on the food still. And
Do you
know
have
Jared
misophonia?
all of them looked at me. And I was
You
like,
know Jared loves this pie because he was in the zone.
Man, when you like something, you like something.
CrossFit approved.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I would recommend my friend Tenoria. She was on MasterChef. She was a quarterfinalist, and she lives right here in Indianapolis. And she is a personal chef and amazing. And she wants to have a cooking show someday as well. And she has a really great story also about just unity. She hosts these unity tables to talk about race and unity. In her previous job, she worked in diversity and inclusion, so she's really passionate about that subject, and she loves to bring people together around the table with food to talk about that. So
It's a good one.
You guys haven't had Lisa Harris on your show, have you? Do you know her? She is big boss at Eskenazi Health. I don't know if she's CEO.
she's CEO.
Is she CEO?
Mm-hmm.
But she has kind of led Eskenazi through a transformation. We know several people that work there of trying to incorporate wellness and like a holistic approach to medicine, and doing that at a county hospital. I think is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Love it. Go for it.
Where can people find out more? Where can people follow you, buy your book, watch the YouTube videos on knife skills? Where can they watch Terrace House? All that stuff.
Oh, and Creative Mornings, right?
Oh,
we
yeah.
forgot that shout out.
Yeah. People can follow us at acouplecooks.com.
That's A Couple Cooks, not A Couple
There's no
of Cooks.
we get a lot of a couple of cooks. So acouplecooks.com. We're on Instagram. That's where we're most active on social media. We're just at A Couple Cooks there. Our YouTube channel is also at A Couple Cooks, right?
Yep.
You can find it from our website. We have all the little icons. So just click the YouTube icon to get over to our YouTube. And then our podcast is called A Couple of Cooks Small Bites. So you can just search Small Bites in your podcast app. And our book is available everywhere books are sold. Pretty Simple Cooking.
That was well done.
Thanks.
That was she nailed it.
Just wanted to say thank you guys again for opening up your doors, letting us come celebrate our 100th episode here.
Thanks for coming.
No, for sure. And thank you for sharing your story. I think that people are really going to enjoy it. I'm excited to dive into some recipes. As you know, I am the cook in all relationships, as I said earlier.
Whoa.
What?
Okay.
Like, I would probably cook for you.
That's true.
Just saying. No, thank you guys so much. This was really awesome. So we'll sign off here. As we like to say, drink culture, know your city. We're out.
Thank you.